Hi, I'm Dr. Langley. Thanks for tuning in on this business casual kind of Friday. I'm here to talk to you today about everyone's favorite skin condition, warts. So warts, I think everyone's gets them at some point. They're kind of buildup of skin in kind of callus kind of form, and what it is it's a virus living in your skin, and it surrounds itself by dead skin cells to protect itself from your own immune system so that it doesn't get killed. Kind of smart. And it's always the HPV virus, no matter what kind of wart it is. There's actually various kinds. There's flat warts, which are commonly on the back of your hand. Kind of easy to not notice, I feel like. Plantar warts, which are on the plantar surface of your feet, has nothing to do with being like a farmer planting things and walking through the field. Nope, just on the bottoms of your feet. There's filiform warts, which are kind of these spiky, crazy things, like they stick out of your skin and have all these big little fingers. I think they're cool, but I've never had one, and it does seem rather disturbing to have one, perhaps. Yeah, those are the basic kinds of warts that I've seen, at least. There's all sorts of rumors out there as to how you get warts. Like, I even know people that say, like, you should always wear flip-flops in gym showers because you might get warts or something like that. But from everything I've found, there's no evidence that you can get this virus from inanimate objects, so like the floor or sharing a cup or something, like having a hand on a cup that someone else with a wart on their hand had. Not going to get warts that way. We don't really understand why HPV is transmitted, which also leads to some confusion about cervical cancer too, because that's the same virus. It turns out this virus, certain strains of it, there's hundreds of different strains of it, and certain strains are more associated with cancer, certain strains are not. Certain strains are more likely to cause issues when they're on mucous membranes, like in your mouth or genitals, things like that, and others aren't. So I also did an HPV video that I'll link to at the end about cervical cancer more in particular. But anyway, so when it comes to warts on your hands, feet, other places, they're a bummer to have. We don't really understand why some people get them, why some people don't. We don't understand a lot of it. So it's hard for me to call them a sexually transmitted disease, even if they're on the genitals, because we don't understand really how they got there. It doesn't mean that you are dirty or one of your partners were dirty or something like that. With HPV, it's a weird, mysterious virus. Hopefully we'll figure out more eventually. And in the meantime, we have the HPV vaccine, which not only decreases your risk of certain kinds of cancer, but also kind of decreases your risk of getting warts at all. So kind of cool. Another cool thing about the HPV vaccine. I like it a lot. But for your regular old wart on your toe, what do you do about it? So there's really good over-the-counters out there. Salicylic acid usually comes in little patches. You can put a Band-Aid on top or a piece of duct tape on top to try to hold it in place. Has about an 80% chance of working. Not bad. It'll work better if you scrape it down a little bit first to get some of that keratotic, that dead skin, calloused-like skin off. And that's one of the ways that you can actually know that it's probably a wart. If you scrape at it and irritate it, which is kind of hard not to do when you have a wart, is not to pick at it. It'll have little black dots. Sometimes they're red, they're itty bitty, and that's usually a sign of thrombosed capillaries, little clots at the ends of tiny, tiny blood vessels that happen in warts, and it's a sign that really is probably a wart. So cool thing. So you scrape away at it, or sometimes you soak it in some water to make the skin a little bit softer and then put that salicylic acid on there. 80% chance it'll help. Okay, 80% sounds like a big number until you do this and try to get rid of warts and they don't go away. Okay, other options. Sometimes duct tape seems to help. Some studies really show that it does help. Some studies not so much, so it's kind of up in the air. It seems there's a chemical in the adhesive on duct tape that can get rid of warts. You've got to leave it totally occluded for weeks at a time, so totally wrapped on there and just forget about it. So it's more useful on toes than anywhere else. Where else can the tape stick around that long? And still about an 80% chance of getting rid of them. So they sell little canisters of cryotherapy, the little freezing stuff. I've never been really impressed with that. I've got true liquid nitrogen here in my clinic that I prefer to use. It hurts though, no doubt about it. It stings. And yeah, usually I scrape away at it first with a scalpel, then I apply the cryotherapy. Usually about 3 times I'm trying to freeze the skin cells and then let them thaw and then freeze them and let those ice crystals break through the skin cells and kill them and kill the virus too. You know what? It's got about an 80% chance of working. So I've got other things up my sleeve too. I've got cantharidin, also known as beetle juice. I really like it because it's painless. I paint it on like a kid's hand with a wart, put a Band-Aid on it, should turn into a blister. And again, it's got about an 80% chance of working. There's imiquimod. That's a prescription cream, especially for flat warts on the backs of your hand. Dot it wherever you've got warts. It irritates the skin a lot, but that's kind of the point of it. Is it's supposed to eat away at the skin a little bit and get rid of the wart. Guess what? It's got an 80% chance of working. Trichloroacetic acid. Sorry, I just put TCA. I didn't feel like spelling that out. That's some strong stuff. You dot that on, and you let it sit as long as you can in the clinic, and then it starts burning, and you pour on kind of an antidote. I mean, it's usually just soapy water to make the burning stop. And you know what? It's got about an 80% chance of working. So it's hard to find a really reliable way to get rid of your warts. It's mostly a matter of trying all these different ways if it's bothering you that much, and knowing that your body might take care of it in the end on its own anyway, even without trying all this stuff. But there's a lot of options out there. I had one patient with this really resistant wart on her finger. Man, we did everything to that sucker. We even like tried to dig it out. I mean, it's on the back of your finger. It's a hard place to dig out. When we stitched her together and the wart came back, I couldn't believe it. And so we happened to try this last one that's on my list, cimetidine. So cimetidine is just like Zantac. It's an antacid, and it has evidence that it helps. And that was the only thing that made this wart go away. So that always reminds me of that story when I talk about warts, that we tried all this strong stuff that was eating away at her skin, and finally it was a silly little antacid that we only tried because she got pregnant and didn't want to try other scary things while she was pregnant, but this one seemed harmless enough, and it got rid of the wart. Or maybe it was just her immune system happened to kick in. We'll never know. So that's how I feel about warts. They're a little bit tricky to get rid of, and maybe this is helpful for you to figure something out for you. If you want to watch that video about HPV, it's right there, but please subscribe to our channel so you can find out when I post more videos. Thanks for watching.